Okay, so I mentioned hypertrophy. Hypertrophy is an increase in size. So that's when something gets larger. Okay, so an increase in size of an organ or body part associated with an increase in demand. So this is common in cardiac and skeletal muscle. That's mostly where you hear about that. And the reason is because muscle cells can't undergo mitotic division, so you can't increase the number in this case. And so your only real choice is to increase the size. So if you had a muscle cell that was this size, you might end up with the same muscle cell, but it might become larger. Okay, that's supposed to show that that's gotten larger or hypertrophied. Okay, so so cardiac, and that's what this picture is showing, left ventricular hypertrophy. And so the genes are turned on in the muscle cells to make new actin. If you remember actin and myosin, the way that a muscle contracts, if you produce more of these, well, you're going to have to you put them in the muscle becomes larger. As well as increase in the size and or number of organelles. There are more enzymes that are being produced. There's more ATP that's stored in there. There's more creatine. There's more lots of things that are stuffed into those muscle cells that make them larger. Okay, so I have here the left ventricular hypertrophy. What increased in demand may cause this? Well, the left ventricle, if you draw the heart, the left ventricle is pumping blood out to the body. Actually, it goes out this way, the aorta, and so that if you have some thinning or blockage, hypertension, so if you have plaques building up and you have hypertension, you have high blood pressure, then this is going to have to pump harder to push blood through those vessels. And when it's being pushed a little more, its response is going to be, well, I need to maintain blood flow because I'm hearing from the cells, and this of course goes through the brain, that we don't have enough oxygen, and so I need to increase the blood flow, and so I'm going to have to pump harder and faster to keep that blood flow. Okay, so a couple of different types of hypertrophy. So again, we're talking about growth, increase in size, hypertrophy. Normal physiologic, increase in muscle mass associated with exercise. Okay, so this is normal. Okay, so this means that this is when you're working out, you're exercising, something like that, that you have an increase in size. So your body this is basically a normal adaptation. And this is normal pathological. Okay, so physiological means that everything is reacting the way that it's supposed to react from a cause that you sort of introduced. Pathological means that there is some kind of an illness, or there's something behind it that is causing it to happen. Okay, so a couple of examples would be like with the left ventricular hypertrophy. That should be an H. Left ventricular hypertrophy is that if you're exercising a lot and you're doing a lot of cardio, you're going to have some hypertrophy of your cardiac muscle. But that's normal physiological. Okay, it's not coming from a pathology. Pathological would be due to hypertension, high blood pressure. Okay, so normal pathological. Adaptive, that's the example would be thickening of the urinary bladder, so the detrusor muscle that surrounds your bladder, and due to outflow or obstruction, or due to outflow obstruction. So that means here's your urinary bladder, and then it's draining into the urethra. But if you have a blockage or something like that, then that may have to work a little harder to push urine out. Okay, and so you may have thickening of the urinary bladder due to that, but that's caused by something that is pathological. Okay, so compensatory means that something has failed. So that means that this example right here is really good. The increase in size of one kidney, okay, when the other is removed. So you may have kidneys that start out being normal, and then you remove one kidney. This one is going to be taking on more blood to filter, and so it may end up getting larger. So it's trying to compensate, and that's the key. It's trying to compensate for the loss of something else. Okay, so another example might be that if you have your muscles, okay, so you have like the group of muscles, like your quadriceps in your leg or something like that. That's supposed to be muscles. That's your kneecap. Okay, knee muscles. Okay. So that means maybe if you have a loss of one of these muscles, that the others will then have to hypertrophy to compensate. Okay, that's a compensatory hypertrophy. All right. So the key is that something is lost that the others have to cover for, essentially, is compensatory. So would left ventricular hypertrophy due to hypertension be physiological or pathological? Well, it's going to be pathological because we just said that it was due to hypertension. Would it be adaptive or compensatory? Well, it's not making up because your other heart isn't working hard enough, or that you've removed your other heart because we only have one heart. So that's going to be adaptive. Okay. All right. And it actually makes sense for here with the it's almost the same thing as the thickening of the urinary bladder, thickening of the heart due to